So yeah, there's crazy astrology today. Let me share my screen with you.
Yeah.
So this is right now, and if you notice, we just had a full moon last night.
Yeah.
And if you see this kind of configuration that's going on here,
Mm-hmm.
this is a super interesting slash significant, in my opinion, configuration because this is like something with the slower planets, Pluto, Neptune, Uranus down here. And right here it's the sun, but eventually Jupiter will be there, and that will be in 2026. I titled these in chapters because they struck me as like coherent units, except
Right.
I don't actually like I'm not trying to name the chapters of the story we live in, it would be cool, I think, to map them to the Book of Revelation, perhaps, if such a thing were to be possible, but I don't know. So, like the chapter names. But anyway, so
Right.
in 2026, you have this configuration happening here, right there.
Yeah.
And this is a pretty big, like this is pretty rare for that to happen. This people would call this a basket or a cradle. And
Right.
this is right when starts a new. This is the first sign of the zodiac right here, so it starts a new thing. Pluto moves into a
Cycle.
new sign. Uranus a new sign. So if we look back at this is now, and right now the sun is kind of in that spot, already activating that thing that will
Right.
happen in
Right. Right.
2026.
So
And
it's
then,
mirroring 2 years from now.
yeah, it's kind of like, yeah, like it's giving maybe pre-sentiments or something. Also interesting about this is that you had the moon like kind of on that same, like the full moon was on that same axis right there,
Right.
conjunct with Pluto here. But then also, this is a kind of gets a little far out. This is based off of Robert Powell's research,
Okay.
who was talking about the visions of the mystic Catholic nun. I think her name was Catherine Emmerich, who had visions of the life of Christ, and through this he claimed that he dated the events of Christ's ministry, basically.
Okay.
And I don't know how accurate that is.
Astrologically dated them, or
Like he also figured out the names of the months and stuff,
okay.
um, and like mapped it to them, and found like, and he also said that the zodiac was different, so he uses a different kind of vernal point or a starting point for the zodiac. So, with all that being said, he says that this is what was going on zodiacally during the crucifixion, which is, and we didn't even know about Pluto at the time, right? So,
Right.
this is far out. As I said, this is kind of a wild thing. However,
Yeah.
this is also a Jupiter opposite Pluto situation here on the day of the crucifixion, according to him, and April 3rd, 33. And if we go back to 2026, this is also a Jupiter Pluto opposition.
Right.
Some people call this a cradle.
Yeah.
I don't know. So yeah, that's kind of an interesting thing, and that's today. And tonight at 11:30ish Eastern time, these two trines will be exact, and trines are generally thought of as kind of flowing, working together, sort of good relating aspects. Yeah.
Okay. So what's coming to my mind? Is this actually?
Oh, and also we have Mercury squaring Uranus in about 20 minutes, and that's considered a challenging aspect. Mercury could be your thoughts, your perceptions, your communications. In Leo might be a little fiery, um, and in a square would be like a challenging or structure building aspect to Uranus, which is about kind of like shaking things up, new ideas, insight, innovation.
Mm.
So that's in about 20 minutes.
In 20 minutes, I'm gonna have a new insight. I can hardly wait.
Maybe a challenge.
Okay, so this is what I was thinking of when you were talking about that. Turning and turning in the widening gyre. A gyre is like a whirling thing. The falcon cannot hear the falconer. Things fall apart. The center cannot hold. Mere anarchy is loosed upon the world. The blood-dimmed tide is loosed, and everywhere the ceremony of innocence is drowned. The best lack all conviction, while the worst are full of passionate intensity. Surely some revelation is at hand. Surely the second coming is at hand. The second coming. Hardly are those words out, when a vast image out of Spiritus Mundi troubles my sight, somewhere in the sands of the desert, a shape with lion body and the head of a man, a gaze blank and pitiless as the sun. It is moving its slow thighs, while all about it, real shadows of the indignant desert birds. The darkness drops again, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle, and what rough beast, its hour come round at last, slouches towards Bethlehem to be born. That's what I was thinking of when you were showing me the cradle and Robert Powell's version of Christ's life and the 2 years from now and the signs that we're in at the moment and this widening gyre, right? Turning and turning. I was like, okay, he's talking about an astrological movement in this poem, actually. I could suddenly, I realized it.
I mean, that would make sense. Yeah, like
Yeats had a lifelong interest in mysticism, spiritualism, occultism, and astrology. It was way in there. That's why when I was watching that thing turning and he was talking about slouching towards Bethlehem, what's turning and turning? The astrological, the zodiac, right? The signs, the universe, the world. He says, but now I know that 20 centuries of stony sleep were vexed to nightmare by a rocking cradle.
that's
20 century.
okay. Yeah,
20 centuries. Yeah.
2000
It's
years.
2,000 years. And the cradle that you showed on the
Yeah,
chart.
that's pretty wild, eh? Maybe they were looking at this.
Of
You know?
course he was. Of
Well,
course he was. That's why it came into
when
my
was that
head.
again, though? Because that might have been before some of these outer planets were discovered. Yeah, Pluto was discovered in 1930.
Yeah, it doesn't really matter though.
No, yeah. I mean, yeah, no, it doesn't really matter.
This vortex represents a greater chaos of the world, a microcosm of the swirling cycle of violence and loss that has overtaken everything. But in my opinion, the widening gyre is the astrological chart. This is just, maybe I'm just totally projecting something onto this, but I don't think so, because Yeats was completely absorbed by astrology.
I didn't know the word gyre at the time. and
Right.
and I shouldn't say that. I had like my own meaning of the word gyre.
Romanticism and science have to come together.